You guys talk a lot about you wanting to bring back certain pride it takes wearing this uniform. Do you guys consider this weekend to kind of be a wake-up call for that?
Well, you hope, right? I mean, I was trying to remember even when I was a player, this might have been the first time I've ever been swept in this uniform. Usually we're the ones doing the sweeping. These guys knew coming in that we have something to prove, right? Yeah, we're Arizona State, but this team has something to prove. And, it better be a wake-up call. We can't want it more than the players. And right now, I think the staff does to an extent. Our goal is to get these guys ready to play every day. And, right now we're not, they're giving their best effort. But I think the pride factor, I didn't see much pride today representing the maroon and gold. And it hurts as a coach because we can only do so much. It's got to come from within them. And it's not going to get any easier. Oklahoma State coming in and then we're getting on the road. I think that might be a great thing to get on the road. But this better be a wake-up call that we got to compete from the first pitch until the last pitch, regardless who we're playing.
What do you think has been the biggest disconnect between winning games and losing games?
That's a game of baseball, really. I mean, I think on the offensive side, a lack of execution in terms of situational hitting has not been good. We're either expanding out of the strike zone or we're taking too many hittable pitches. So that's a time where, the pressure is on the pitching staff, the opposition, where, they got to throw strikes, but we got to be ready from that first pitch of every at-bat. And I think we've been pretty passive and at times some selfish at-bats where, it's in that situation, it's all about the team. They got to be satisfied being 0 for 1 with an RBI rather than trying to get that base hit. So they know they got some cleaning up to do on that end, and we'll continue to preach that to them.
Coach, Willie mentioned when he was speaking to us about how the mentality was one of the issues today. Did you see that and kind of what the mentality from your hitters throughout the course of the day? How do you change that moving forward?
Well, it's different, right? I mean, Bloomy and I really talk about, I guess, the different style, I guess, when we were here in terms of the mentality overall. The players this day and age, they're just different. And that's not a bad thing. It's just trying to find a way to reach everyone and instill that mental toughness and confidence. And this team in particular, right? It's a new staff coming in. A couple guys that are on staff were here when, extremely mentally tough, and we're a part of some really good teams. So we know we had some work to do before the season started. And, I think these guys really understand how mentally tough they have to be. It's just a matter of us getting them to get there. But we all know this is a tough game. It's not easy, but they should have extremely high expectations. And every time they step in between the white lines, they got to compete. And a handful of guys are competing. A handful of guys are kind of a little tentative. So we're hoping that this is a turning point. Early on things happen. Okay, let's embrace it and let's learn from it. Let's not let it dictate how our season's going to go. And it's a very confident bunch that, if we hit a rough patch, let's get it out of the way soon, like it is right now early on in the season. And it's really going to bring us a lot closer. And at the end of the day, I mean, you want to play your best baseball at the end of the year. So this is something we could really look back on, hopefully, as the season, progresses and say, hey, we know how to handle these situations.
On the offensive side, outside of Connor Davis, you guys are pretty young and inexperienced. experience, do you think there's some guys that need to step up in leadership roles, and how do you convey that to them, that, hey, you gotta lead this group a little more than you have been?
Well, it kind of just depends. You know, you have vocal leaders, you have guys that lead by example, right? I think the number one thing is there's the right way to play this game. It's all out all the time, especially in the maroon and gold. That's what separates us from everybody else in terms of our mentality, our style. I think that's where it starts. And yeah, you have some older veteran guys that have had success at this level, and then you got some younger players that have not faced this competition day in and day out. So I think the biggest thing is they know pitching is a lot better. They're facing more consistent velocity and guys that can throw off-speed pitches in any count for a strike. So it's really honing in on an approach and sticking to it, and be willing to sacrifice taking a strike rather than just seeing fastball out of my zone. I'm going to put the ball in play, now I'm 0 for 1. So these guys, you know, have some work to do on the approach side, and that's something that we're also going to continue to work with them.
You said some guys were tentative. Is that a situation where you're trying to actively coach that out of them and having that conversation, or is that a situation where they just have to kind of look in the mirror?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, you hope, leaves with experience, getting some games underneath their belt, kind of seeing what college baseball, the highest level, Division I, is all about, right? But it's got to come from within, right? I mean, as long as they give us everything that they have when they step in between the white lines, we're okay with that. But coming to a place like this, being tentative, we don't have time for that. And that's where, as long as they give us everything that they have, we can live with the results. And, you know, the worst thing that can happen is if we beat ourselves. Because we're a heck of a lot better than what we showed. We know we're young. Yeah, that's not an excuse. It's reality. But we know we can win, and we are going to win with this group. It's just a matter of continuing to instill confidence in them, expectations, and mentality.
What's been the vibe like in the locker room after a sweep like this, after each loss, even from your perspective? How have the players kind of responded in terms of how they've interacted with each other and even the coaching staff?
Yeah, guys are pissed, as they should be. This is unacceptable here. This is not what Arizona State is, but tip your caps to BYU. They came in and took it to us. They had, you know, really good arms up and down their pitching staff. But, you know, as representing Arizona State, you know, people that are coming in, this is a big deal for them, meaning the opposition. And we have to approach it that way. It's just reality. If guys are scared, then, you know, go somewhere else in terms of this is what Arizona State's all about. And this is why we have these guys here. We're going to continue to bring in guys moving forward. But, you know, guys are pissed. Guys know that they have a lot of work to do to get better collectively. And we hope that's where leadership comes in. Because coaches, we can only do so much. There's only so many ways we can say the same thing. But, you know, as a staff, we're not very happy because we're extremely competitive guys on the staffing side, and I think our players really are starting to understand how competitive we are. It's not to make them play scared. It's just we have high expectations. We expect to win. We expect them to go out and play the game hard and play it the right way. So this is a very good learning experience for us. I know we're going to grow from it. And like I said, it's a good thing that it's happening early in the season and knowing that, you know, we have a long season ahead of us.
You mentioned there's only so much the coaching staff can do as far as like saying things in different ways so that the players can receive it. Are there any adjustments from the coaching staff, anything you guys have talked about to try and help along this younger group, or is it really just kind of getting the reps for these players in these kinds of games, these kinds of losses even, so that they can eventually have things click?
No, there's always work to be done, you know, and I think it's a great thing when Bloomy, Goffey, and myself are kind of working with the hitters, that we're all seeing the same stuff. We're all really making sure these guys are understanding what we're trying to teach with them. Mechanics are one thing, but the approach and the situational hitting, that's all mentality. And we're going to continue to work with our guys to instill that mental toughness, instill that confidence and that self-belief that each of our players should have. And then if there's mechanical things, then yeah, we're all going to work on helping these guys get better. But I think it just really comes down to mentality, having high expectations, and going out there to perform at their very best. And whatever the results will be, then we'll live with it. But right now, we're definitely not playing up to our standards.